Hello, everyone, and welcome to another weekly energy forecast and another very, very, very big week this week coming up. So, the spring season's now in full swing, which is where we have really, really prominent wood element energy, and also that activates the liver and the gallbladder meridians in the body. So that is the wood element, the spring season, the liver and gallbladder. They support action, they support doing, they support moving forward. So we might be feeling this shift in energy, but this year we do have quite a contrast with the retrogrades we've been experiencing and that I've been talking about over the last few weeks. So this week, Mercury and Venus are going to station retrograde, and by the end of the week, all of the personal planets will be moving forwards again. And we haven't had this since the beginning of 2025. So this week, the energy is beginning to line up. And we may start to feel that. However, the momentum probably won't get going really until the end of April, but we are now moving in the right direction. So there's lots happening this week, astrological, very, very significant turning points. We've got a very, very big and significant full moon coming up, and I'm really excited to dive into that shortly. Um, it's a little bit tender, but I also think that it's because of the significance of it, it could bring a very, very significant turning point in life and really help you to move forward. So there's a lot of energy happening. There's just a lot going on this week. So there's potential here for cleansing, for releasing, letting go, and healing things once and for all. We've got a full moon, which tends to help us reach a release point. In moon cycles, we start at the new moon, energy builds, 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 and it's almost like that last push as you climb to the top of the mountain, and then it's all downhill from here. And it's almost like that releasing breath of like, okay, I made it. And now it's time to release. And that kind of full moon point, that culmination, that is a release point. So we have that. We've got some action going on at the end of Pisces. There's lots of potential for wrapping things up. There's a very, very significant theme running out around through March and April about endings, beginnings, endings, beginnings, endings, beginnings. You're probably getting really bored of hearing me talk about it, but it's still significant. We're still in that kind of crossover period. Um, there's also going to be need for a little bit of discipline, effort, responsibility being taken. We've got a lot of Venus Saturn action happening this week, so I'm going to be unpacking that. So because there's a lot happening, there's just so many layers to the energy this week. What I would say is it may not be super easy to direct. So, sometimes with a new moon and it's super straightforward, we set intentions and we move forward. Or, it's spring, it's a first quarter moon, all the planets are direct, it's time to take action. The message isn't super clear, right? Because there's just so much happening. So it's not that you need to be overwhelmed by this, but it's just I think grounding is important. Again, you're probably bored of hearing me saying this at the moment, but grounding, soothing, um, with this strong Venus as well, like there's there's an invitation here. Like Venus is the planet of relationships. There's a lot of Venus energy happening, and with it being in Aries as well, it's almost like cultivating a relationship with energy, right? Paying attention to what's coming up, noticing and responding rather than being in your head and you're acting through your conditioned self of I should be doing this, I should be moving forward, I should be being productive, I should be whatever, right? The more we can pay attention to what energy is guiding to us and the more we can start to have a dialogue with our body, our energy system, like really pay attention, that's when we're able to kind of go with energy as opposed to trying to swim upstream. So if anybody wants to kind of dive deeper and start that journey, it's a lot of what we do over on our Handpicked Life memberships. We work with somatics, we work with dropping into the body, with creating a dialogue with your body and energy system. So when I talk about the practices throughout these sessions, and also at the end of the reading, when I talk about the practices that are available for members, that's really what this is about. It's not just understanding the astrology and knowing what's coming up, but it's also working with it. So you can experience a lot more flow in life as opposed to, again, trying to push against energy and swim upstream. Okay, so let's get into the forecast for this week because there's a lot to get through. So on Monday, the 7th of April, we have Venus retrograde. Venus is going to be wrapping up her retrograde journey this week at the end of this week, as well as Mercury, which is stationing today. So there's a lot of Venus Mercury activity this week. So Venus is about to station retrograde. It's a couple days off yet. And on Monday, the 7th of April, Venus retrograde is going to go conjunct is going to be conjunct Saturn in Pisces as well, retrograde. So that's at 25 degrees of Pisces. And Venus is only going to station direct about 1 degree away from this. So it's pretty much going to be conjunct Saturn. And Venus and Saturn are going to be conjunct for quite a long time moving forward now. I think roughly until about the 30th of April is when they're going to start separating. So Venus is in her exaltation in Pisces. Venus loves to be in Pisces. Venus brings harmony, beauty, flow of emotion, emotional intelligence in relationships, all of those things. But Saturn is a malefic planet. Venus is a benefic planet. It brings positive. Saturn is malefic. It brings things that are a little bit harder. And again, never to just mess things up for the sake of it, always. So there's a lesson for us to learn there. There's something for us to do. Saturn requires effort. Saturn is about boundaries. The planet literally having rings around it. It is the boundaried planet, right? Saturn brings responsibility, order, structure, all of those things. So because Venus is in her exaltation, I feel like Saturn's influence on Venus is a little bit less dampening than it would be, say, for example, if it was in Capricorn or Aquarius or another sign like that. So this could be like developing your relationship to time, planning for the long term. It could be bringing structure and discipline to things that are joyful. So Venus is the planet of pleasure, of beauty, of creativity. So it could be like Saturn wants discipline. Saturn wants us to take responsibility for things. So this could really temper and help us to see, okay, where do I need to take responsibility and step up and create discipline so I can actually enjoy my life? So this could be creating new routines that feel pleasurable. This could be creating a new structure of finance to enable you to enjoy the finer things in life, right? So Saturn is structuring, Venus is enjoyment, and they're coming together. So Venus is in her less in her power because Saturn is tempering her a little bit, but it's almost like it wants us to, this Venus retrograde journey has been happening for a long time. She's been going backwards. We've been going on this journey. It goes on for 40 days, and her stationing direct conjunct Saturn is almost like a point of, okay, now I really need to take ownership of what I've learned over the last 40 days. Now is the time to reap the lessons, create a structure, let's have some discipline, and let's move on now. So this is the point where this starts to kind of get going. This is where the Venus station is beginning when it becomes conjunct Saturn, and it's going to be there for a little while. So it's almost bringing a little bit of tough love to this Venus retrograde journey that we've been going on so far. So again, where is this falling in your chart? It's so helpful to be aware, because that's where you can really understand what this is trying to teach you and where Saturn is asking you to take responsibility. Because when we learn the lessons that Saturn is trying to teach us, Saturn gives us gifts. So it's not like it's just going to mess things up for the sake of it. It wants us to take responsibility. And then when it does, then that's when life flows, because we've really learned the lessons and we've really taken ownership of whatever that lesson was. Okay, and then also on Monday, the 7th of April, we have the Mercury station. So Mercury is stationing direct at 26 degrees of Pisces, not too far away from this Venus-Saturn conjunction as well. Mercury will be becoming a lot more pronounced. So when planets station direct, they become highlighted. Their expressions become a lot more significant and important, and it becomes a lot louder. So on direct stations, though, things are going to start to move forward. So again, we've had all of this retrograde motion. We had Mars retrograde at the beginning of the year, and then Mars went direct, and then Venus went retrograde, and then Mercury went retrograde. So we've had such backwards introspective energy throughout the beginning of the year. We're changing gear now, but it takes a little while to get going. It's almost like you're in first gear and you're kind of revving. And then next week we'll probably get into second gear, then third, then fourth, and then we're off, right? So things are going to start to move forward here, but there is a sense of these retrograde themes becoming more pronounced. And I remember on the Mars station direct, I was like, that's it, we're good, everything's moving forward. And that station made me realize how actually it's not all plain sailing from the moment a planet stations direct. There's a lot more. Some like Mercury retrogrades can bring like cross wires in communication, confusion. It can bring disrupted travel. It can bring It can bring like technology issues. It can bring miscommunications. It's never like, if you can, it's good to avoid like signing contracts, making any commitments, um, finalizing any plans within a Mercury retrograde period. Or if not, just be mindful of the fact that they may need to revisit that at some point, right? So when a planet stations, Mercury has like a bit of a trickster quality to it, as well as just being the planet of communication. So things could just go a little bit wrong, and that's fine, right? It's just about being aware of that, just double checking, triple checking details. It's not that you can't do anything within this period of time. However, being mindful that there is potential for things to get mixed up. Um, so Mercury is in its fall in Pisces as well, which is where it's stationing. So Mercury like likes clear cut. It likes things to be like facts, information, figures. Pisces has no like structure to it. It is very much about, intangible things. So Mercury is confused here. Mercury struggles to get clarity here. So there may be a haze of confusion, and that might get more pronounced on Monday and a couple days either side. Do not worry about it. It's part of the process. Pisces is all about surrender, right? So it's about surrendering to what is. Um, and perhaps some like karmic endings, closing things out, letting go, cleansing as well, because Mercury has been hopping back and forward over the beginning degree point of the zodiac as it has Venus. So there is this sense of, okay, this is a final opportunity to really let go and end something in our life so we can make way for the new. Because this Mercury station is also happening conjunct the North Node. And the North Node is our future collective destiny. It's where we're being pushed to grow and focus on in our life. It's almost like a point of fate, right? So it's almost like there's this sense of, it's not just the Mercury station. Mercury would station like direct on its own, but the fact it's happening conjunct this North Node, it could feel like fated conversations. It could feel like because Mercury is the conversations, the North Node is like, the direction we're being pushed to move towards. But it could also be closing something out so we can then kind of get on the path to our destiny or whatever. So that could also be something, right place, right time around Monday, anything that happens around this, around like the next few days, like it might be more significant than you think. So if you're stood in a line in a coffee shop talking about needing a new job and someone taps you on the shoulder and says, hey, I know of this thing, right? Maybe on a normal day that might be a bit weird and you might not pay attention to it, but because this is happening on the Mercury station, it could actually be something that's more like more fated than you realize, or more significant than you realize, right? So pay attention to what happens over the next few days, particularly around conversations, communications, travel, any of those Mercury themes. Okay. And then, we're still in again this like endings and beginnings I keep talking about, because this is conjunct the North Node. It's still a bit eclipsy, right? The North and the South Node are what create eclipses. When we have lunations around the North and the South Node and where they are, that's what creates eclipses. So, we're still in eclipse territory, even though we are technically out of it now. Like there is this sense of, sudden new beginnings, sudden endings, wrapping things up in Pisces, ending something, and the North Node kind of like pushing us forward on this Mercury station, being like, okay, now it's time to go forward. So there could be something sudden that comes in, and that may be quite significant. So again, have a look at where this falls in your chart. If it is it your second house of finances, pay attention to things in those, like pay attention to themes in that area. Is it your third house of daily routines, daily rhythms? Maybe there's an opportunity that comes up that will really shake things up. Pay attention and really check in with your intuition whether it's right for you or not. Okay. So Tuesday, the 8th of April, we have Venus retrograde sextiling Uranus in Taurus at 25 degrees. So just before she's about to station as well. So this could just be, it's not a super significant transit. It could just be a bit of a glimpse of the future, because Venus and Saturn are going to be hanging around together for a while. Saturn is the past, Saturn is responsibilities. Venus is still moving backwards at this point. We're still in that review period. We're still ending things. We're still wrapping things up, right? But this Mercury sextile, with it being a sextile and it being supportive as well, feels a little bit like a glimpse of what breakthroughs you could have if you take the responsibility and learn the lessons, with Saturn being there as well, right? So this is the future potential. This is what could come, or this is where we're going when we have a moment of clarity. Oh, I get it now. This is the reason this is all happening. So, Venus retrogrades, they're not necessarily always difficult, although they can be. Usually a bit more positive if you were born at night. If you're a night chart baby, if you're a day chart baby, they can be a little bit different. They can sometimes bring up some more difficult themes, but again, always more for like your own personal growth and development. Not as difficult as maybe like a Saturn transit or a Mars transit, but they can sometimes bring up challenges, right? So it's almost like suddenly seeing the reason and the purpose of what this was all leading you to. Like, oh, I get it now. Like, so for example, like years ago, my mum had a period of time where she had breast cancer. My sister at that period of time decided that she was going to then study to be a naturopathic practitioner, like functional medicine, that kind of thing. So, you know, it's funny because if that hadn't happened, she probably wouldn't have taken that path forward. And this feels very similar. It's almost like that moment of like, oh, okay, maybe this has been hard, or maybe this has just felt like a bit of a whirlwind of a period of time. This could be the day where you're like, okay, I see where this is leading me now, right? And it doesn't mean that we have to dive into action just yet. We're probably not going to be able to because Uranus is going to be hanging out here, but Venus and Saturn are going to be here together for a while, right? So Saturn is the past, Saturn restricts, Saturn loves boundaries, Saturn loves taking responsibility, putting the effort in. So this is just a glimpse, like an almost like a sudden breakthrough, a moment of clarity, a moment of understanding of, okay, this is where I'm being guided now. There might be a bit of a push pull as well. Uranus wants to do things quickly, Saturn wants to do things slowly. Saturn's probably going to have the upper hand here. So it's going to temper that. But just note that because we've got that spring energy, we've got a lot of energy happening with the full moon building from this point. So there might be this sense of frustration or impatience, like, I just want to go now, or that's where I want to be and I'm not there yet. But we do have to put the work in first, right? So if you're feeling that, don't worry, it's okay. There's actually a great flower remedy called Impatiens, which I've been taking. It's been helping a lot with my impatience. But I definitely think this is just something to take note of over the next couple of days. So this is Tuesday, the 8th of April. This is happening, but you'll feel it a couple of days before and after. Okay, so Friday, the 11th of April, we have Mercury conjunct the North Node in Pisces at 27 degrees. So this is pretty much what I've just spoken about with the Mercury retrograde, that fated kind of moving forward. It could be fated conversations. It's just that this goes exact, but the Mercury station, it was very, very close to it. So pretty much all the same themes of the Mercury retrograde stuff that was happening on Monday, but it's just going to continue because that exact conjunction is not going to happen until Friday, the 11th of April. And we also on that day have quite a nice Mars in Cancer trining the North Node in Pisces as well at 27 degrees. So this just energizes things. It brings some heat. It's also going to be speaking to this Mercury North Node conjunction happening there as well. So this could be taking action maybe on some of those more fated conversations that you've been having, things that like right place, right time, things that came up around that period of time. Mercury is direct now as well. So, and Venus is stationing. So we're like Mars is kind of being like, okay, we're going to be able to get things going again. It's happening. It's happening. Mercury's going forward. We're moving. We're trying the North Node, which is about moving forward. Venus is about to follow along too shortly. So it might bring a slight surge forward, but we're not all systems go just yet. Okay. So we then have on Saturday, the 12th of April, we have this is really all blending in with this new moon, this full moon. So we've got a full moon on Sunday, the 13th of April, but the day before, Saturday, the 12th of April, we have a Chiron cazimi with the sun. So that's when Chiron and the sun are conjunct and they're blending energies together. And this is happening at 22 degrees of Aries. And then the full moon is going to be at 23 degrees of Aries. So this is very much not separate at all to this full moon, but I'm going to talk about this transit separately and then move on to the full moon, but they are very much working together. So this is a moment where you get clarity. Like Chiron is the wounded healer. Chiron is where we need to do some healing. When we're having a Chiron transit, it might bring up some stuff for you. Chiron transits do take a long time. I actually, off the top of my head, can't remember how long, but we're talking in the 7-8 year marks, maybe more. So when Chiron is traveling through your chart, it's kind of kicking up a little bit of a theme of like, okay, where do we need to heal? What responsibility do we need to take for this area of life, and what do we need to let go of? Where can we kind of become very, very good at healing the wound so then we can help others with it? That's what Chiron is. So where you have Chiron natally, that is generally where your core wound that you'll probably keep coming back to and keep healing over and over and over again in this lifetime. But it's not that you can't heal it, it's just that you come at it from a different perspective. So maybe you've healed to a certain extent and you come back at it, but you're from a higher vantage point and you can see things in a different way, and you've kind of you're on your journey, but it will be becoming a theme, but just a recurring theme in your life, but just at different levels. So when we have a Chiron transit, this is where there's potential for healing in our life. And when Chiron and the sun become conjunct, this is often like the sun illuminates, right? So, and Chiron being there, it's almost like getting to the heart of something that needs healing when they come together. The sun is going to illuminate what needs healing, and almost like light is very cleansing. And also because this is, so the sun and the moon being opposite each other is what creates a full moon as well. So not only do we have the light of the sun, but we also have the light of the moon shining on this Chiron, like sun cazimi, right? So there is potential for such clarity here, but also like light is so cleansing. The light of the moon is so cleansing. Like you put crystals out in the moonlight to help that cleanse, right? That's what cleanses energy. So there really is so much potential here to really cleanse and let go of something in this area of life. So have a look at where this falls in your chart. Is it the fourth house of home and family? Is it like a family, like an ancestral wound that needs healing? Is it in your relationships? Is it in your, like, the eighth house could be like relationship to other people's money, it could be taxes, it could be your relationship to death even. So like where, like, you know, are you afraid of death? Do you need to kind of address how you see it? There's so many different ways this could hit your chart, so have a little look at what this full moon is activating for you. But full moons bring a culmination as well, so it's not only the sun and Chiron coming together, which happens once a year anyway, but because we've got a full moon directly at the same time, full moons are a culmination. So new moons begin things, full moons begin the ending, right? Full moons are like, okay, we've reached the peak and now we're going to let go. Now we're going to move on. So this is an ending, this is a cleansing, it's a release point. It's not just a sun Chiron conjunction, it's a full moon as well. So this is where you could really finally let go and move on from something you've been healing for a long time, or just something that you know is a recurring theme in your life. This is a point where you can actually let it go. I would actually even recommend doing a little bit of like a cord cutting cleansing ritual on this day. In fact, we've got those of you guys who are on our membership, we've got a cord cutting class in the library, in the problems to solve and things to address practice library. There's a cord cutting one there, and there'll probably be another one on like cleansing your energy. So this could be a great thing to do, because even if you're not working with this consciously, right? Even if you don't know this is the wound and this is what I'm moving on from, it's not necessarily, you don't necessarily always need that. Energy is subtle, and energy doesn't really have like verbal language, right? So we can still experience a cleansing of energy without really needing to cognitively understand what is actually happening. So it's not that we need to sit there and figure it out and understand this is the wound, this is where it came from, this is what I need to move on from. We can just work with the energy at the energetic level and allow it to do whatever it is here to do. There is a good chance you will get clarity around this because there's so much light shining on this Chiron. However, you don't need to. You can just work with the energy, and this is a great day to do that cleansing ritual, especially not being able to have worked with any of the lunar cycles for for about 6 weeks or so, because we've had so much eclipse energy. Now is where we can really start getting back into that rhythm and back into like a normal flow of life. Okay, so and then Sunday, the 13th of April, not separate to this transit, we have the full moon in Libra, and that's happening at 23 degrees of Libra. So this is opposing Chiron conjunct the sun. It's in a little bit of a loose square to Mars as well, which is a little bit sore. Mars likes to kind of point things out and can be a little bit pointy and aggressive. Not aggressive as in like it's going to be really mean and horrible to you, but it kind of just brings soreness. It can bring heat. Venus is the ruler of this full moon as well, and Venus is stationing retrograde on the same day. So there's just so much lining up here that wouldn't usually line up. Like Chiron conjunct the sun happens every year, it doesn't happen on a full moon, right? That could have happened at any degree point at any time of the year, right? And then like the full moon in Libra, happening on the day that Venus is stationing retrograde, and Venus is the ruler of this full moon. That's massively significant. That is not something to just be like sniffed at. So, you know, there's something with this full moon. It feels like a turning point. It feels like a significant milestone in the journey of these, all of these retrogrades. And it feels like a potential for us to really shed, let go, and move forward. Like I said, there's so many themes of beginnings and endings. We've got the Mercury stationing in Pisces, the last few degrees of Pisces, the last few degrees of the zodiac. Aries, Venus doing the same. We've got this full moon in Libra that's kind of cleansing, bringing to an end. There's just so much potential here. And you know, when I'm talking about beginnings and endings, like a good example of this recently, I've been talking about somebody who is going through a breakup, and they are kind of like wrapping things up, like finding a new place to live, all of those things. So it's almost like they're in a new beginning, but they're still having to close some stuff out. And that could go on for 6 months. It could go on for a year. So, you know, we will kind of see these themes kind of wrapping up, kind of continue ever so slightly. But that's, you know, when I say beginnings and endings happening at the same time, it kind of seems like a bit of an abstract concept, but that's what I mean by like that. That's just one example of how this could be expressing. So again, we are about to step into a new chapter, but we haven't tied up all the loose ends yet. This is a loose ends week. This is a real potential to cut those energetic cords, start to move on. It doesn't mean that it's going to be all the dregs are going to be completely gone, but we are about to step into a very significant period of moving forward at the end of April. Things are really going to ramp up, and we're in for a real nice summer as well, like some of the transits that we've got coming up. Um, okay, so let me have a look at my notes where I'm at to. Yeah, so this is about healing, it's about cleansing, it's about letting go, it's about moving forward. So the end of a Venus retrograde happening in the last few degrees of Pisces, as I mentioned, the light of the sun and the moon is cleansing and helping us to shed and let go. Libra is all about others. Venus is the planet of relationships. So there is this sense as well of like your relationship to self. Or even your relationship to energy as well. Like the sun is in Aries, it's the sign of the self, which is what creates the full moon. Venus has done her part of the retrograde in the planet Venus, the planet of relationships, has done part of her retrograde in Aries. So how you relate to yourself, and Chiron is also there. Chiron bringing up any wounds, anything that we need to heal and let go of. So it feels like a culmination. Venus is about to end her 40-day journey into the underworld. So this is the end of healing your relationship to self and like anything in this area of life where it falls in your chart. So be kind, be gentle. Full moons can be a little bit intense. They bring heightened emotion, they bring a lot of energy. But there is potential here for us to really heal, release something, and just be mindful. Like that Mars is going to make things a little bit sore. Mars in Cancer is like kind of Mars equals it can be hurt, it can be cutting. Cancer is our feelings, right? So it could just be a little bit tender and sore, and that's okay. That's part of this. This Venus is really wrapping up this journey. We're releasing, we're letting go, we're leaving things behind so we can then move forward. And that is really what this week is all about. And then Venus in Pisces station is going to be stationing direct at 24 degrees of Pisces. So this again, like, is very much tied in with this full moon because the full moon is ruled by Venus. So it's conjunct Saturn, as I mentioned before. It's tempering that exalted Venus. It's ending her 40-day retrograde journey of going deep into the world, deep into the underworld. So this is really where it began. Like at the end of February, Venus began her journey. She's gone down into the underworld, learned the lessons, kind of got to the heart of the matter, and now is kind of returning to the surface. She's going to reach the surface this week. We've learned the lessons, we've gathered the wisdom, we understand now. This is almost like a still point of like, we've come to the end. What have we learned? Let's review, let's understand, and let's move forward. And Saturn is going to make her do that. So usually, if Saturn's not there, it's less about, okay, what disciplines do I need to bring in now? What have I learned? What do I need to take responsibility for? What do I need to take ownership of? Usually Saturn isn't always in the picture when Venus stations. This time it is. So there's so much more responsibility to be taken in this area of life, in your relationship to things that are joyful, pleasurable, how you relate to yourself, how you relate to others. There's going to be themes of that. And we're kind of like at this point of like integrating the transformed self, like that you've been on a journey, you've learned lessons, you are transformed. And now it's like, how do we integrate things? How do we take responsibility for this so we can move forward effectively? Um, Saturn is going to ask us to be structured. It's going to ask for effort. It's going to ask for discipline, and also could be kind of healing our relationship to time as well, how we see things. You know, we had mentioned earlier in the week, we've got that Venus Uranus thing that wants us to move forward, future oriented. We've got that spring energy that's pushing us on. Like Saturn is going to teach us patience. Saturn is going to help us to understand the value in taking our time. So that is really kind of going to be a bit of a push-pull theme that's been happening this week. So I know that was a lot. It was a lot. But basically, to sum up, this is a week to ground, pay attention, develop your relationship with energy, learn about boundaries and the benefit of boundaries. So, guys on the membership, we've got a great practice coming out. So, this week, this month in our new moon coaching call, we were focusing on the radiant circuits, how the triple warmer, the spleen, and the other one, which I've forgotten the name of. And it's all about how to kind of create your most joyful life, how to build a strong foundation so you can enjoy life, right? But these radiant circuits also support us with having healthy boundaries. The wood element in Chinese medicine is all about healthy boundaries and also moving forward. So with the Saturn influence this week, there's such a potential here to really get the most out of these practices. So we're releasing a class today, which is all about working with those energy meridians. And if you can do that on a daily basis, then you can really start to build a relationship with your energy. As I was talking about, Venus, the planet of relationships, is all about relating to yourself, your energy, others, all of those things. So the more we can create literacy with energy and we can understand this is where I'm being guided, this is what I need to focus on, this is where, you know, like something I've been working on a little bit recently, particularly through this Venus retrograde, has been connection. So working with the bridge and the belt flow to ground, be present, and also connect a bit more with others. So, you know, when we learn how to work with these energy systems, then we can really understand how to not only be aware of what's happening, but also work with it, make the most of it. So we've got some really gorgeous practices coming onto the membership today. And we've got some lovely journal prompts to go with those as well for you to really start to develop that relationship with your body, with your energy system, with these incredible energy meridians called the radiant circuits. It's all about building a strong foundation for joy. It's a massive focus for us over on the membership this month. So over the spring season, we're going to be doing new moon coaching calls on different energy systems. Then we have classes that are released which support you actually getting into dialogue with those. And then we have full moon coaching calls, which are a non-recording sharing session where we talk about our experiences, we reflect, we talk about where we're at in life and where we want to be going moving forward. So if anybody wants to join us over there, we would absolutely love to have you. It's definitely not too late. We're going to be working with this throughout the month. You also get an introductory call with me where I can talk you through how to get the most out of these practices, depending on where you are in your life, what your birth chart is, all of those things. So do not miss that opportunity. Come over and join us. We would love to have you there. And yes, stay grounded this week, connect. Those of you who aren't joining us on the membership but want to work with that connection and that relationship to life as well, there is a practice over on our YouTube channel, which is focusing on the belt and the bridge flow and how we can really connect and ground and be present. So that could also be an incredibly supportive practice over this week, particularly with all this relationship energy, particularly with all of this like big wild energy that we have going on this week. Working with those energy meridians on a regular basis can really support you in staying grounded and making the most out of this. So I hope you all have a wonderful week. Keep me posted. If anything significant happens, let me know. I absolutely love hearing your stories. It really makes my day.